Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to analyze the rapid game that I played on Lee Chess last night, and hopefully I can get through that quickly enough that I'll still have some time left for something else. Once again, I will try not to get caught up on every move. Hopefully there's not a lot of blunders. I've been running the game review in the background, and it said I had 7 blunders. Wow. My memory of this game is that I went down somewhere in the middle game. I felt like I was behind, but I just kept playing. And then somewhere, it seemed to me like my opponent was going to win the end game too, but somewhere in the end game, I don't know exactly when, I realized I had a chance. And looking at the graph, which I'll scroll up so you can see, it looks like I was a little incorrect about that. I thought that this area where I was behind stretched back much further. But it looks like I actually went behind as we went into the end game, and then I came back. And it was a lot more sudden than I remembered. It seemed like I just clawed my way back. Let's just do our best here. Once again, we made it quite a ways before any mistakes. In fact, here the first blunder was by my opponent on move 15. Now, there were plenty of inaccuracies through this first stretch, according to this. Okay, I said I was going to try to make this quick, so I am not going to dwell on the inaccuracies. In fact, it looks like most of the early ones were by my opponent. But again, the graph, it has a bunch of ups and downs here as we enter the middle game. So let's just go. I did play the English. My opponent played an inaccuracy on move 7, so we will get to that point. On move 5. And here apparently they shouldn't have taken my knight, but they did. And then a couple of moves later, I played an inaccuracy. Here I should have done something else. I said I wasn't going to dwell on the inaccuracies. Okay, I should have just developed a piece so I could castle. But instead I went after the bishop and it went back over there, which seemed odd. But anyway, let's get to the first blunder. It looks like I think I said it was on move 15. Is that what I said? Okay, so all of this keeps us pretty close between +1 and -1 until there. That inaccuracy put me over +1 for the first time, and I should have played d4. All right, and the engine thinks that if I did that, then my opponent would play queen to b8. Well, I'm not playing any grandmasters. I don't think they would play queen to b8 at that point, but I have no idea. I assume they would take the pawn, and then I guess I would have to take back with my queen, but I don't know. But bishop to b2 wasn't bad. I was trying to develop the last of my pieces, and then this queen was going to go over here someplace. But my opponent correctly guessed that I was about to put this knight in here. The engine doesn't say in any line that I would do that. In fact, the engine wants me to put my knight over here. Okay, I think I considered that too, but my idea was that that bishop's not defended. So here my opponent must have guessed that that's what I was about to do, or maybe they just realized that it was undefended. Now, they could have defended it by playing their best move, knight to 8-5. They could have defended it by playing queen to b8, which is what the engine wants them to play. They could have not defended it by playing their next best move, which is a5, or knight to g6. And you'll notice that in several of those cases, I would go ahead and play knight to e4, but the engine does not want me to play over here, apparently. But instead of any of those moves, they defended their bishop by dropping it back one. And the only way that I can take advantage of that blunder is by playing... Oh, wow, that's d3. Okay, d6. I get the 3s and the 6s mixed up because I'm half the time evaluating from the other side of the board, where d6 is over here. So I'm thinking of this as the 6th rank because of black pieces, but on white pieces, the 6th rank is down there. I guess the idea is that this is a pawn fork. I was going to say that if they took the pawn with their bishop, then I would just get their bishop for free, but that's not what would happen according to the line. If I push this pawn forward, they would take down here, and then I wouldn't take that bishop or either one of these pieces. I would check them with my queen. And then they would move over, and then I would take one of these 2 pieces, which would be threatening their queen, and then I would take this bishop. Sorry, I don't know if the queen check is absolutely necessary, is it? Or is it that I need to get my queen out of this line for some reason? Sorry, I didn't play d6 here, but if I had played d6, their best move by a noticeable margin is to take this bishop on g2 in front of my king. Okay, now I have to, okay, it is equal whether I check on b3 first or take one of these pieces first. Actually, it says that taking the knight would be better than taking the bishop. I assume that's because this pawn is a greater threat over here than it is over here. Because over here it's just attacking the queen, and they would just take it. But over here, if I take here, they're going to take it, and then I'll get this bishop. Okay, because right now they're 3 points ahead because they just took my bishop, right? Okay, so now we're even on material, but now they're a pawn ahead. And again, the engine thinks it's a really good idea for me to check over here on b3, but I could just take this would be better. And so now I'm up 2 points of material, but I'm on the evaluation, I'm up +4. I'm just going to go ahead and call that +2 in my head because I don't see how I'm up +4 here, but I do understand, I think, that even if they play their best move after that, I'm still going to get a piece for a pawn. And when they take back, I'm going to get the other one and I'll be up 2 points of material. I'm not sure what this is about other than, am I just supposed to develop a piece? Is that what it is? Throwing in the queen development in between? Because, this pawn won't be here. Gaining a tempo, connecting my rooks. Okay. But I did the thing that I said I was going to do, which is, it's counted as a blunder because I missed d6, but it still leaves me with an advantage. Oh, and another reason I should have played d6 is to keep them from playing d6. It is their best move, and they played it, and I kept missing d4 here. All those inaccuracies earlier, I missed it here. I thought pretty soon they were going to challenge the knight, and I wanted to drop it back, so I moved the a pawn forward so I'd have a place to drop the knight back to. They did play a6, and I was supposed to put the knight back over here. I think that's because the engine wanted it on e4. Okay, so we went back to even, and then my opponent blundered here. Wait, why is it a blunder? Well, apparently it didn't matter because I blundered right after that. I thought they were just picking up a pawn because I only have one piece defending that. That's why I should have put the knight back on c3, is so I would have had 2 pieces defending my front d pawn. But they just thought they were picking up a pawn and clearing, this diagonal, I guess. But they took there. Oh, and the only way I can take advantage of it is to take back. But if I took back, then they would put this in here. Wait. It says if they took back like that, then I would play queen to b3. Oh, can they not defend the knight? They can't defend the knight. Okay. I didn't see the point in taking back because I figured they would just plant their knight there, and I definitely did not see this tactic. Okay. So by Stockfish's way of thinking, they weren't just picking up a pawn here for free, because I thought it was going to be this, and then they just went up a pawn by taking that front d pawn. But it wouldn't have been because I had queen to b3, which would have also picked up the knight. Well, that's not a beginner blunder, so I don't feel too bad about it, but maybe I could have seen that, and I'm starting to look for those sorts of things. That was a blunder. Now my opponent can take my bishop. Well, I thought that they probably could, but I could always take back, so I'm not sure why they're ahead. They're up the 1 pawn, and they should have played d5, but instead they put their knight out there, which allows me to play queen to c2. What? Sorry. Why is that such a... Oh, okay, I think I see it. It's because it attacks the knight and the bishop. They can protect the knight by moving up, but then I'll just get the bishop. Well, I finally saw queen to b3, and I did that. They were supposed to block with the rook, but it was a blunder to move over because of this. Same tactic as before. I would be forking these 2 pieces, and in this case it says they would just give away the knight by checking, and I would take it, and then they would protect the bishop this way. Well, I didn't see that. I decided to bring this knight over here to try to get their knight, so I went there. That's a huge blunder because they can play knight to e7 and get it out of trouble, I guess, but they didn't. They went over there, so I need to... Okay, then my plan worked out because I came over here to trade off the knights. Now they dropped their knight back, which was their best move, and we're even for a little while. We're pretty close to even. So I traded off the knights anyway. We're still within +1 and -1 until this inaccuracy, which puts me over +1 again, so that probably should have been a mistake if it went from 0 to +1. But only if I play rook to c4, or rook to e4, or rook to e3, or rook to c6. Well, I didn't play any of those. I went here. I was thinking about lining, doubling up the rooks. My opponent did that, which I'm not sure what the idea was. Oh, maybe they were... No, it was already protecting the bishop. But anyway, I doubled up my rooks here, and I'm up +3, okay? Now I'm up +4 nearly, but only if I'll play queen to b7 or bishop to a3. Okay, I brought the queen back. They have 2 defenders here. I guess, okay, that's what that was. I could have added an extra attacker to the bishop, and they couldn't have added an extra defender to it. I got that, okay. I think they were trying to come up here to add an extra defender, but it didn't work. Now I can play queen to b7, which is what I should have played before, but I didn't. I wasn't sure what to do. This is where I thought I was behind. I thought I was behind at this point because my opponent is still up that pawn, but instead I was ahead this whole time. Well, that's frustrating. They did the thing that I thought I was going to do. That I thought they were going to do, which is to add an extra defender to the bishop. This was my best move. The idea was to add an, defender to this rook. They have a dark squared bishop, so they can never come after this rook except with another rook, and when they do, I'll have a passed pawn. But again, I thought I was behind this whole time, and I thought that was a good move, but it wasn't because I can play bishop to a3 and attack their queen. Oh, because I would be defended by my own queen, okay. And then their queen would go back here, and then I would take that pawn with my queen. That's b6, right? And then they would take my queen. Oh my. Okay, well, I don't feel bad about missing that. Okay. I was going for this pawn because it was undefended. They decided to defend it by continuing to push it forward. Again, I can play bishop to a3, but I didn't see it. I mean, I must have been looking there, but I guess I didn't realize that I was defending it. So I went up here because that rook's undefended. So they have to defend that rook. Again, I can play bishop to a3. Well, this time I saw it because the queen's not there anymore. See, earlier I didn't realize my queen was defending that spot, but now that their queen's not there, I can put my bishop there, and that keeps them from coming back. Okay, their best move was to play rook to d7. I think they were trying, to get behind these two pawns to march them down. I had to play rook to e6. Okay, but they just would have stepped out of the way, and then I just would have put my rook between them, and they would have taken it. But then I could have taken down here. Oh my. Well, once again, very complicated. That's pretty complex. I don't feel bad for missing that. I still have a very slight advantage. I offered the queen trade. They took it, and I took back. Again, I thought I was still down here. I had no idea that I had been ahead for the last half of the middle game. And according to this graph, we have just entered the end game. It was a mistake by my opponent to come toward my rook. My bishop is guarding this square. I should have just gone in there, but instead I did that, which is a blunder, and now I am behind. But I should have put my rook here, and they would have taken, and I would have taken, and I still would have been ahead, +4. Or I could have just taken this. If I had taken there, and they had captured back with their bishop, then I would have captured this rook with check. They would have had to get out of check, and then I don't know what would have happened, but I would have given up a rook for a pawn and a rook. Oh, and then we would be even on material. But instead, yeah, I did that, so now I am behind, and I was behind for a little while. I decided not to resign, even though, like I said, I was pretty sure I had been behind for a long time. But we got into this endgame where it's a bishop versus rook, and a lot of pawns left on the board. My opponent has more pawns than I do until now. Now we're even on pawns, but they're up in exchange. They have another pawn that's about to fall. They could protect it, I guess. No, they can't, because I would just take it. So they can't protect that pawn. Okay. So their king came forward, and it was my best move to take the pawn? Okay. So now I'm a pawn ahead, but down the exchange. I was still pretty sure I was behind. I had thought I was behind for a long time. They came here. I was worried I was going to get trapped over here. What was I supposed to do? Bring my king? Oh, well, I moved this pawn up so they couldn't get through, because my bishop's guarding that square, my pawn's guarding that square now. They played their best move, which is to go after the bishop this way. I should have just played b6. Wait. Oh, wow. That's my best move, but I still would have been way behind. And they wouldn't have taken my bishop. Wait, if I had played b6, would they have taken my bishop? No, they would not have, because if they did, I would have advanced, and they can't stop me from queening, because I'm protecting that square, and they can't catch it with the king, and they can't get down there. Oh my goodness. Okay, but what would they have played if I had played b6? It says they would have had to have gone here, and then what would I have done? They still would have been ahead. Well, what I did was went down there. That still leaves my opponent ahead, but my idea was if they ever take this pawn, which I thought they were going to do, I could eventually go around this way and start picking off the back of their pawns. They did take that pawn, and I moved that one forward because, the bishop's guarding it, and I can always put the bishop here so that they could guard each other, and they should have gone toward my bishop, it says, okay. But instead they did that. And I missed a very similar thing in a blitz game recently, but in this rapid game where I had plenty of time. I was down 2 minutes, but I had plenty of time to see that. So they took the pawn, which was probably their best move in this situation, and then I was ahead from here on out. I wasn't sure that I was ahead because of, all those pawns that they have, but I was pretty sure I could get at least some of them. They should have immediately tried to create a passed pawn here, but I was able to win this endgame by protecting that pawn first of all, and then just chopping off their rear pawns, and that part turned out to not be hard at all. Oh, Stockfish has already found a mating sequence. Wow. Well, we did this, and then I came up here with this pawn protected by the bishop, and then brought my king to protect the pawn in case I need to move the bishop. They went for the bishop, and I protected it. They came here, and I came over, and I don't think they're going to be able to stop me from getting here or from pushing the pawn forward. So they went back, I came up, and they went back for that pawn, which they can't get because the bishop's defending it, and I took here, and they resigned, because they can't stop me from taking that one either. Well, that game was wild. I think my opponent's last blunder there, the one that changed the course of the end game here, was the only elementary blunder, and I'm going to call it elementary because it's so transparent to put it there, but by my previous definition, it is intermediate, because I'm not winning a rook right now. I'm winning a rook on the next turn. So it is winning the thing through a tactic. It's not like they put it here, right? According to my definition that I came up with last year sometime, that would have been an elementary blunder because I would have just taken it. This is an intermediate blunder by definition because it requires a tactic, but I think it was the simplest blunder of the game. And it would have been hard for them to win had they not done that. It says they need to play king to d6, and I would play king to f1? I probably wouldn't have. I don't know what I would have done. Honestly, I probably would have come in here aiming for this way. And then if they ever got close to my bishop, obviously I would put it there. And my opponent probably would have won on time if they hadn't made this blunder. Once they did that and I got their rook again, I started playing much more quickly here. And I think if we go to the end, I think the time differential had started to close by this point. Let's see where we can... No, they're still about... Well, they're less than 2 minutes ahead now, but they're still ahead on time. 1 minute and 40 seconds. And then when we get here, yeah, they're ahead 1 minute and 40 seconds. I've got 2.5 minutes left. I mean, that should be enough for me to win this, but yeah, my opponent definitely could have won on time if they hadn't made this blunder here. Once again, that took longer than I had hoped, but there were a lot of mistakes. I didn't understand all of them. And yes, I could have stopped on each one and played out multiple variations, but then I wouldn't have gotten to the other ones because I'm at the end of my time now. I'm glad I won, but, you know, sorry for my opponent for making this, putting the king and the rook on the same diagonal and the same color diagonal that I have a bishop for. They were ahead on time. They should have taken a little longer for that. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.